Well, hello everybody and welcome to Jeff's Baking Blog. Today I'm going to make something which I'm calling strawberry shortbread crowns. This is an idea which I got from the Marks and Spencer's website, but I'm customizing that idea for my own purposes. On the Marks and Spencer's website they had these little crowns, but they were made with shop-bought shortbread, whipping cream and strawberries, and I'm going to use homemade hazelnut shortbread. I'm going to make some creme pat to sandwich two of the shortbreads together, creme pat being creme patisserie or custard, basically creme anglaise, and then I'm going to put some whipped cream on the top and some strawberries on the top of that. So it's not a difficult recipe, but it does take some time because we're going to chill our biscuit dough, our shortbread dough, for an hour after we've made it, and then we need to make the custard and let that cool down as well. But I'll start off with the ingredients just for the shortbread. So for the shortbread I have 75 grams, which is half a cup, based on scooping packed flour into a 250 milliliter cup of plain flour. I have 57 grams, which is about half a cup of roasted hazelnuts. If you can get ground hazelnuts, that's better, but I couldn't, or I didn't, so I'm going to grind my own. I have 40 grams, a quarter of a cup of rice flour. Now you could use corn flour or you could use potato starch, but I've got rice flour, so that's what I'm using. I have 34 grams, a quarter of a cup plus 1 teaspoon of icing sugar, 75 grams, which is 5 tablespoons, a third of a cup of softened unsalted butter, and I have a pinch of salt. And that's all the ingredients I need. And first of all we need to get these hazelnuts reduced into a sort of fine powder really, and I'm going to do that in the little grinder bowl of my immersion blender. I'm going to put the hazelnuts in, and then I'm going to add in a couple of teaspoons of my icing sugar. And the reason for that is if you grind nuts which have oil in them too far, they turn into a paste. The icing sugar should help prevent that. So I'm simply going to process those until they've turned into a fine enough powder for me to use. They'll still be slightly larger, almost like ground almonds. And that's going to be good enough like that. So I'll tip that back into the little dish that they were in before. And just a little bit of it did turn slightly pasty, but that will be okay once we've mixed that into our shortbread dough. So that's good like that. I'll set those to one side for a minute. And then I'm going to cream my butter with the remainder of my sugar. And you can do this all by hand, but I'm doing it in the bowl with a hand mixer just for ease really. and that's good enough like that. So then I'm going to put in my rice flour, my salt, and the hazelnuts, and I'm going to whisk those to combine them. And then I'm going to add in the flour and just whisk that on a low speed and get that combined as well. And that's good enough like that. So I'm going to transfer that to some parchment paper. And with that on the parchment paper, I'm going to just flatten it a little bit and cover it with another sheet. And then I'm just going to roll that out to a thickness of about 1/4 of an inch. 5 to 6 millimeters. And that's rolled out quite well, nice and thin. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that into the fridge and I'm going to chill it for an hour, and then I'm going to be able to cut it out quite easily and bake it off. Now I should say this is only making a small batch. I'm going to make 10 biscuits, which would be 5 strawberry shortbread crowns, but you can easily double the recipe or triple the recipe to make more. I only need 4 or 5, so that's all I'm going to do. But I'll be back in an hour when this has chilled and we'll cut them out and go on to make our custard as well. So it's been an hour and I have chilled my shortbread dough. So I've got a 3-inch which is about just under 8 millimeters cookie cutter, and I'm going to cut out some rounds, and then I will re-roll the pastry, the dough, to get more. And I'm going to transfer those to a baking sheet, which I've lined with parchment paper, and I broke one, so I'll use a spatula to pick them up. So there I have 11. I only need 10, but I used up all of the dough, and I'm going to put those back into the fridge, and I'm going to chill them again for 30 minutes. And as they chill, I'm going to preheat my oven to 180 degrees Celsius, 160 Celsius with a fan, 350 Fahrenheit. And after 30 minutes, I'm going to put them into the oven, and I'm going to bake them for between 12 and 15 minutes. Until I can see that they're baked through. The longer that you bake them, the crispier they will become, the harder and crispier they will become. But 12 to 15 minutes is a good approximation of the time. So once they've baked, I leave them for a couple of minutes on the tray, then I transfer them to a wire rack to cool down completely, and I'll come back and make our custard. So while the oven is preheating and the biscuits are getting ready to go in, I'm going to go on to make the custard, and the ingredients for the custard are double cream and whole milk. So I have in this jug 125 millilitres, which is half a cup plus 1 teaspoon of whole milk, and 75 millilitres, a third of a cup minus 1 teaspoon of double cream. I have 5 millilitres, a teaspoon of vanilla extract, 12.5 grams, 1 tablespoon of caster sugar, 9 grams, 1 tablespoon of cornstarch, and 1 medium egg yolk, which would be large in the USA. So I'm going to put my cream, I'll put them into the jug together just for ease really. So I'm going to put the cream into a saucepan, the cream and the milk should I say, into a saucepan, and I'm just going to put that on the heat and heat it through until it's just below boiling point. And I'll put that on a gentle heat. So then I'm going to put the other ingredients into a larger bowl. Sorry, I'm going to put the vanilla extract in with the milk. And I'm going to whisk these 3 ingredients together into a paste. And that's good like that. Now I did add just a teaspoon of my milk into that, just to loosen the egg yolk that little bit. And so my milk is just about ready to boil. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drizzle just a little drop into the egg mixture and a little drop more. I'm doing it slowly, whisking all the time so that I don't get any lumps of egg cooking. And then once I've tempered the eggs, I can pour liquid in more quickly. I made a little bit of a mess pouring the egg in, but it doesn't, the milk in, it doesn't matter. And then I'm going to put that back into the saucepan. And I'm going to put that onto the heat, and I'm going to heat it up, stirring constantly until the mixture begins to thicken into a nice custard. So I'm going to whisk this constantly. And as you can see, that's now beginning to thicken. And that's a nice thick custard now. So I'm going to put that into a bowl, and with that in the bowl, I'm going to place some plastic wrap on it, and I'm going to push the plastic wrap down onto the surface of the custard, and that's going to stop it or prevent it from forming a skin as it cools down. I'm going to set that aside to cool, and I'll be back to do the remainder of the recipe when our biscuits have cooled down. I baked my hazelnut shortbread biscuits for 15 minutes. Then I took them out of the oven and left them on the rack for a couple of minutes, then on the baking tray for a couple of minutes. Then I transferred them to a rack. And this is what they look like. Now I actually took my cookie cutter and just cut the edge off, the same size cookie cutter, while they were still slightly warm, just to make them all a nice uniform size. So now here I have 225 grams, which is 1 cup minus 1 tablespoon of double cream, and I have 12.5 grams, 1 tablespoon of caster sugar. I'm going to put the caster sugar into the double cream, and I'm going to whip that until it's nice and thick. And I should also say that I also have here some slices of strawberry, which I've cut into a rough triangle shape. So these were large strawberries. I cut the ends off, so I made them roughly the same height, and then cut them into triangles. And it doesn't matter if they're slightly different sizes, I'm sure. So I'm going to whisk this until the cream is nice and thick. And that's nice and thick now. So I'm going to put that into a piping bag, which I have here. And I have a little star nozzle on the end of that. And I'm going to pipe the cream on the top, just like that. I don't need too much. And then I'm going to take some strawberries and I'm going to place them around the cream. Like that. I'll do the same with the remainder. And then I'm going to take my custard and I'm going to whisk that up. So I've just whipped that a little bit to make sure that it's nice and smooth, and I'm going to drop it into a piping bag. And this is not as thick as the double cream. I don't want it that thick. I want this to have that nice little bit of moistness with it. I'm just going to put a thin layer on each biscuit, basically. So then I'm just going to pipe that onto the biscuit, just in a thin layer. I'm not going right up to the edge because when I put the other biscuit on, it will push it outwards a little bit. All I need. So then I'm going to lift up the biscuits with the strawberries on and just place them on the top. So that's the strawberry shortbread tarts, and I put one onto a plate so I can have a taste of it. The shortbread is so tender, and then that custard and the cream go so well together, and they're not overly sweet. I deliberately didn't put very much sugar in them because you don't need a lot of sugar. There's sugar in the shortbread as well, of course, so you don't need a lot in the cream or the custard, and then the sweetness of the strawberries as well. So I think this is a very good dessert which you could make and enjoy on Coronation Day, or even on the next day for the big lunch if you wanted to. So that's going to be it for this recipe. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you have, please give me the thumbs up below and click to subscribe to my YouTube channel. In the top right hand corner of the screen there'll be an eye that you can click on, and that will take you to a link for the recipe and I'll put a link below the video as well, and I'll be back with another recipe in the very near future. So until then, happy baking.